Walter's Sports Bar has been recognized by many local publications as one of the best sports bars in Washington, D.C., located across the street from Nationals Park and open year-round.
We're driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences, so the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Just go to Indeed.com/Blue Wire right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. That's Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
2-2 from Irvin to Nimmo. Is popped in the air to center field. Jacob Young drifting back with room shy of the warning track. He makes the catch, and it's another 1-2-3 inning for Jake Irvin. For the second start in a row, Irvin has pitched 6 one-hit innings. Irvin with 6 strikeouts. He's ready. The windup, the 1-2 pitch on the way. Swing and a miss. He blew it by him up and out of the zone at 94. Strikeout number 7 for Jake Irvin. He has finished 7 one-hit shutout innings here on the 4th of July.
He's only thrown 8 pitches here. Here's number 9. Swing and a miss. He struck him out with a fastball. Strikeout number 8 for Jake Irvin. And listen to this crowd, a standing ovation for Jake Irvin.
And Irvin waving his arms to the crowd, trying to exhort him. What a performance by Jake Irvin. We never see that kind of emotion from Irvin coming off the mound.
Swing by Winker to drive to deep right center field. This is way back. It's going. It's gone. Goodbye. Bang. Zoom goes Jesse Winker with a pinch hit home run. His 10th home run of the year breaks the scoreless tie here in the bottom of the 8th inning. And the Nationals are on the board. It's Washington 1, New York 0.
And welcome to Nats Chat for Friday, July 5th, 2024. Along with MASNsports.com Nationals insider Mark Zuckerman, who is at Nationals Park. I'm Al Galdi, host of the Al Galdi podcast. The Nats 4-game series with the New York Mets at Nationals Park began with 2 Nats losses, but ended with 2 Nats wins. Wednesday evening, the 7-5 win in a game in which the Nats overcame a 5-0 fifth-inning deficit. And Thursday, in the Nats' annual 11:05 a.m. July 4th home game, a 1-0 win, as I do believe that we just saw the best performance by a Nats pitcher so far in this regular season, for which the Nats now are 41-46. This installment of the Nats Chat podcast brought to us by Mason Kalfas and his team of 10 legal recruiters at Zenith Legal in Washington, D.C. Check out Mason's website today, zenithlegal.com, or call or text Mason at anytime, 202-486-3535. Jake Irvin, he on Thursday was outstanding. Jesse Winker, he on Thursday in the bottom of the 8th provided a pinch 1-out solo homer to right field for a 1-0 Nats lead. And Joey Meneses, he on Thursday after the game got optioned to AAA-Rochester. We will get to that. But Mark, it was a funny deal, man. This game on Thursday, a mere 1 hour, 58 minutes. This game was like straight out of the 1960s. Super short, 1-0 final, pitcher's duel, and the game was a Nats win, a very nice win.
Al, it's 2:30 p.m. as we tape this, and it would have been even earlier if not for the surprise Meneses news that came afterwards. This was, you draw up like a best case scenario, I would say, for a July 4th game. I understand you'd rather have a blowout, something like that, but boy, was this fun. Number one, to watch Jake Irvin do what he did. That was phenomenal. And on a day when they needed it because the bullpen was severely depleted with 3 guys unavailable. So he stepped up and did what they needed on the day they needed it. And then props to Jesse Winker for coming off the bench and giving them just that one run they needed. They only needed one today, but it felt like they may not get it. It felt like we may be here all day waiting for somebody to finally score. So good on him for coming through like that, and good on Derek Law for finishing it off in the surprise save appearance. Aside from the post-game news, which caught us a little off guard, otherwise, that's a great day for the Nationals, and especially a great day for Jake Irvin.
So with Jake Irvin, there are these now gaudy stats. We'll get to those. There was this tremendous performance on Thursday. We'll get to that. But just consider this. His last outing came in the 8-1 win at the Tampa Bay Rays this past Saturday, a win that snapped a 4-game losing streak for the Nats. So in other words, Jake Irvin in that game was a stopper. Jake Irvin in this game on Thursday helped to save/preserve a Nats bullpen that is fatigued big time. He's acting like an ace. Like, he's doing ace-like things beyond just like the numbers. Like, those types of things, acting as a stopper, preserving a bullpen, saving a bullpen, that's what an ace does. And Jake Irvin more and more is pitching like an ace. And man, was he good in this game on Thursday. 8 scoreless innings. Yes, 8. With 8 strikeouts versus 1 walk. He gave up just 1 hit, which was a single. He once again threw a truckload of strikes, 99 pitches, 70 strikes, 29 balls. It is such a pleasure to watch him pitch. He was dominant in this game, and he is rolling right now. I mean, this guy is surging in a manner in which we have seen so few Nats starting pitchers surge in recent years.
I mean, you got to go back to Max Scherzer, I think the last guy who had a sustained run like this, right? We haven't seen anything like that. It reminds me of, at the moment, and the personalities are very different. But what he's doing right now reminds me of the way Jordan Zimmerman took off there in like 2014 in particular, where you said, well, Steven Strasburg's the ace of this team, right? Yeah, but you know what? Jordan Zimmerman's pitching better than him, is more reliable than him. And if your life depends on it, you want Jordan Zimmerman starting the big game. And right now, Mackenzie Gore may have the higher ceiling and at his best, maybe better, although maybe not so much anymore the way Jake is pitching. But right now, if your life depends on a good start from somebody on this team, Jake Irvin is your man. And growing into the role, giving them the length that obviously they needed in this game. And how about the emotion he showed at the end of the 8th inning? Hopping off the mound, pumping up the crowd. That was a great thing to see. I'm not even sure he realized what he was doing in the moment, but it made for a great scene on a July 4th in D.C. It has been so impressive to see the ascension of this guy over the course of the last 3 months. Each successive starts he makes you believe that there's even more in there that he can be. And maybe we shouldn't be trying to limit what we think he can be. Maybe he can continue to be even more than this.
I think we should be open to all kinds of possibilities with Jake Irvin for sure. His numbers now, 18 starts, ERA of 2.80, whip of 1, exactly 1, and the innings pitched at 106. It's not just what he's doing, it's the volume of work that he is providing. You can't understate that. And, you know, to the point of what can Jake Irvin be, I feel like there's something very appropriate about the Nats facing the Mets in this game. In 2015, when the Mets won the National League pennant, the top 3 pitchers in the Mets rotation for that season were Matt Harvey, Noah Syndergaard, Jacob deGrom, and they were viewed in that order. Harvey was viewed as the ace, Syndergaard was viewed as this guy with like immense upside, and deGrom was viewed favorably, but not in the way that the other two were. Fast forward just a few years later, deGrom was the clear ace, Harvey was a shell of what he was, and Noah Syndergaard for years now has been a guy who looks the part, but really hasn't pitched to being the part. In other words, the perception in 2015 was very different versus the perception, say, in 2017, 2018, 2019. And so you look at the Nats here, right, and you come into this season, Josiah Gray, Mackenzie Gore, Jake Irvin. We view those pitchers perhaps in that order. Maybe you want to say Gore first, Gray second. But in other words, Irvin was the clear number 3. Maybe, just maybe, a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, we laugh at that hierarchy and we say, man, Jake Irvin was the guy all along. And maybe we're seeing signs of that here with the kind of season that he's having.
You come into this with a pedigree and a reputation and what everybody thinks you're supposed to be. But ultimately, it comes down to what you actually do on the mound and who seizes the moment and who continues to get better along the way. And right now, there's no question that Jake Irvin has taken a step forward in a way that the others have not. And it's not that Mackenzie Gore's been bad, not at all, maybe inconsistent, but he hasn't been bad. Josiah Gray, obviously, the injury has completely disrupted his season. if Jake Irvin turns into Jacob deGrom, minus the injuries, of course, you have to give that qualifier. Wow, what a thing that would be. I don't even need to go that far. If he can be what Jordan Zimmerman was for the Nationals for several years before he departed, would be fantastic. But, he's older. He's 27. So I think there is a maturity there, a little bit of life experience, some time in the minors that's allowed him to kind of really understand how to grow as a pitcher. And you see that growth. The strike throwing has been remarkable. Walks are just not an issue for him anymore. Quick innings, allowing him to go deeper in games, being able to adjust on the fly. The other day in Tampa, his curveball wasn't real sharp, so he kind of went away from that and went to some other stuff. This game, the fastball was really good, and so he stuck with that. There's just so much growth there. It's really been fun to watch. And I can tell you the guys in the clubhouse are feeding off it, absolutely. They were fired up by what he did in this game, and they were fired up just to get him that one run and make sure it didn't go to waste. I think we'd be talking about Jake Irvin in an even more positive light right now if he had just gotten a little bit of run support over the course of the season. I think this is the 11th start where they've scored 2 or fewer runs for him. And I know we don't care about records, but I mean, he could easily have 10 wins right now going into the All-Star break. And whether you agree with that or not, that would probably make him a lock for Texas and the All-Star game. And right now, I don't know. We'll see. Is it too little too late? Is the rest of the league paying attention to it? If you ask anybody around here, certainly he has deserved it. But as we know, it doesn't always work that way when it comes to all-star selections.
Well, to me, Jake Irvin, C.J. Abrams, and Kyle Finnegan are your 3 deserving Nationals all-stars. Will they all get it? Probably not, but they are deserving of it. And, to have some more fun with this Jacob deGrom comp, Jacob deGrom was an older pitcher when he came to the majors. His rookie season was his age 26 season. Jake Irvin last season, age 26 season. This season, age 27 season. So some eerie parallels there. But no, Jake Irvin is doing an awesome job, and he deserves every ounce of praise that he's getting. What a masterful performance on Thursday. Hey, are you a law firm partner stuck on an underperforming team while the rest of the competitors are spending big and winning big? Well, you don't have to stay on your 60-win team. Nats Chat sponsor Mason Kalfis and his team specialize in placing partners and associates at medium-sized and large law firms in Washington, D.C. and across the country. Staying at a firm too long is often a recipe for being underpaid. Explore your options today with Mason Kalfis. Call Mason today at 202-486-3535. That number again, 202-486-3535.
Tim Shover is here to tell you about Game Time. Later this summer, acts at Merriweather Post Pavilion include Hootie and the Blowfish and Rockville's own OAR. If you need tickets for the right price, check out the Game Time app. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code NATSCHAT for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code NATSCHAT for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
Prize Picks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps, on Prize Picks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000. With the finals over, the hoops action doesn't stop on Prize Picks. Women's basketball is still heating up. With stars like Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese looking to make names for themselves, alongside greats like Brianna Stewart and Asia Wilson, you could win up to 100 times your cash watching them ball out. I know I'm looking at Clark and Stewart to put up more than their points projections, and I like Reese and Wilson to do the same to their points and rebounds combined projections too. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code BLUEWIRE for a first deposit match up to $100. That's code BLUEWIRE on Prize Picks for a first deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy.
Derek Law tried for his first save of the season. Listen to this crowd here at Nationals Park. The wind, the kick, and the pitch. Swing and a miss! Swing and a miss! He struck him out! Adams puts the tag on Nimmo after taking it out of the dirt. And a Curly W's in the books.
Regarding the Nats bullpen in this 1-0 win over the Mets, it ends up being that Davey Martinez only has to use one reliever. It is Derek Law, and Derek Law comes through with a perfect top of the ninth for the save. So the Nats bullpen, which was quite bad over the first two games of this series, ends up doing a good job over the final two games. A 7-5 win on Wednesday evening. 4 Nats relievers combined for 3 scoreless and hitless innings. And Derek Law in this game, what is a tight spot, right? A 1-0 lead. You're not used to being the quote-unquote closer. Law came through on Thursday.
Yeah, so you knew that Finnegan, Harvey, and Garcia were all going to be unavailable. 3 straight days for them. There's no way they were going to pitch. And so in the back of your mind, you're thinking as this game plays out, okay, who's it going to be? I'm thinking Law and Dylan Floro are probably your top 2 options at the end of the game, maybe based on what the matchups were. I'm also thinking if Jake Irvin doesn't get past the 6th, we may be seeing Tanner Rainey in a situation of some consequence. Now, it didn't come to that, and great on Jake Irvin for making sure that there was only one reliever needed. I think Davey basically said that it was going to be Law to close. He felt like he was the right guy. And it is fascinating. We've seen this year. Give him a clean inning and he's been great. It's really just when you bring him in to try to get out of a jam that he's had trouble. But most of his clean innings have been very clean. And this one was 1, 2, 3, bam, 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 2 strikeouts. I mean, we've criticized the guy, and rightfully so, for his struggles when he's had them. But he does have good stuff. He does have the ability to put together some very good, quick, quality big league innings. I mean, he struck out Brandon Nimmo, which is no easy task, to end the game. And how about his entrance? Did you see that? Comes in, number 1, on the bullpen card. Number 2, holding the American flag. He said the bullpen mates had kind of egged him on all day to do that, and he had planned to do it. He just didn't think it was going to be in the 9th inning of a 1-0 game. And when the time came, he said, well, I guess I got to stick with it. And as far as the cart was concerned, he said, it's just too hot. And I don't need to be running any extra than I have to. Why not take the cart? And you know what? That's the best sales job I've heard yet for taking the bullpen cart. Who cares about what it looks like on a disgustingly hot and muggy early Independence Day? Ride the cart in, save your energy, and go out and dominate 1, 2, 3 like you did.
Well, the bullpen cart is an awesome thing. Now, I don't know that any reliever entrance for any Nationals reliever has ever been better than the Todd Coffey Ultimate Warrior entrance that he used to make. But save for that, the bullpen cart is pretty special. And you know what? If you're going to use the cart and bring in the flag, you better pitch well, because otherwise it's not going to look so good in retrospect. But to Law's credit, he did come through. Well, the Nats offense in this game, this was another underwhelming performance. Let's make that clear. 1 run, 5 hits. The Nats did draw 3 walks in the game, but the Nats went 0 for 5 with runners in scoring position. But when it came to those 5 Nationals hits in this game, 1 home run and 4 singles. You know, the Nats at one point in this series had been out-homered by the Mets 7-0, but the Nats got the 2 home runs from Luis Garcia Jr. on Wednesday evening, and the Nats in this 1-0 win on Thursday get a clutch pinch homer by Jesse Winker. What a job by Winker. He and what ended up being a 1-run Nats 8th had a pinch 1-out solo homer to right field for a 1-0 Nats lead. The homer went a projected 407 feet per StatCast. Jesse Winker in this series, because of all the lefties, started 1 game. That was it. And we know that Jesse Winker this season, as good of a job as he's done of getting on base, has not hit for much power. But boy, did he provide power in that spot. It was a big spot, and it ended up being the only run that the Nats needed to win this game.
So I get the frustration from people that he hasn't been in the lineup more against lefties. It's basically turned into a DH platoon between Winker and Harold Ramirez. Now, that could change, as we'll discuss here following the postgame news about Joey Meneses. But for now, it's been those 2 lefty-righty platooning as DH. And I get that you say, hey, this guy's put together some of the best at-bats you have on a team that doesn't do that very often. Why not let him face the lefties? And I think the explanation is exactly what we saw in this game. Yeah, you get 4 at-bats out of him, but if you also have the ability to hold on to him and pick the right spot for the right matchup late in a game against a right-hander, that sometimes that's just more valuable. Pick the right spot for him. Obviously, it was the right spot. You ideally would have guys on base so you don't have to get a home run, but he came up and did a perfect job with that. And he has embraced this role, again, for now, of what it is. I asked him about it after the game. Essentially, James Wood's arrival pushed Jesse Winker into a part-time role, even though he's been very good for them this year. And he understands he's just here to do what's needed of him. Right now, that's facing right-handers, whether it's starting or coming off the bench. And in this case, they picked the absolute right time to call him off the bench, and he delivered.
Yeah, and let's be honest about Jesse Winker. He's probably not going to be on this team beyond the trade deadline. So I think from a Nats perspective, you don't have to think too hard about showing loyalty to him. Obviously, you don't want to be disrespectful. He is having a good season in terms of getting on base, but he's not going to be here beyond the end of this month. I think that's pretty clear. I think it's pretty safe to say that that's the case. So I think that is something to keep in mind. There weren't that many other offensive standouts for the Nats in this game, but we did see another good game for James Wood. This in game number 4 for him at the major league level. Wood, for this game, the Nats' number 5 batter. So he was the Nats' number 6 batter for each of the first 2 games of the series. The number 3 batter for Wednesday evening. The number 5 batter on Thursday. And James Wood, as the Nats' starting left fielder, 1 for 3 with a single and a walk. He is drawing walks at a very nice rate. Wood in the bottom of the 4th, a 1-out, 5-pitch walk. And Wood in the bottom of the 6th, a 2-out single up the middle on a 1-2 pitch. And here is what is standing out to me more than anything with James Wood. His exit velocities are to the moon. That single in the 6th inning on Thursday, that single per StatCast had an exit velocity of 110 miles per hour, highest exit velocity of the game. James Wood for the game on Wednesday evening had 2 of the highest 3 exit velocities in the game. And James Wood in the game on Tuesday evening, what was game 2 of this series, had the 2 highest exit velocities of the game. I know that the game is not all about exit velocity, understand that, but he's hitting balls hard. He is looking good. And at some point, those exit velocities are going to translate into extra base hits. But I think there's a lot to like with what we're seeing from James Wood as a batter.
Right. It's very uncommon to hit the ball that hard over a period of time and not have a whole lot of success doing it. Right now, it's on the ground. I think everybody understands that's going to change with some time. Let's also remember, he's taken 17 plate appearances now in the big leagues, and I believe 12 of them have come against left-handers. So I don't think we've really seen who he is yet. This next series against the Cardinals, 4 right-handers scheduled to start for St. Louis. So I don't even want to judge too much until we get a chance to see him in a more favorable matchup. But even in the unfavorable matchups, the 2 things, he's hitting the ball hard and he's showing patience at the plate and poise in big spots. I know this one didn't come out the same way, but in the first 3 games, he came up to bat with the game on the line. I think he either tied or down 1 run all 3 games, and in all 3 of them put together a quality at bat and reached base in all of them. So he's showing poise, he's showing patience. 4 walks, only 2 strikeouts, and the second strikeout finally came in the last at bat of this game. So there's a whole lot to like there, and it feels like it's going to be a small, slight adjustment for him, and maybe it is just facing some more righties that turns those hard ground balls into really hard line drives and deep drives. And I think, within the next week or so, we may really see what James Wood can do for them. So far, very pleased with it. The results could be a little better, but stick with the process. The process is excellent right now.
Well, as the great Dusty Baker once said, don't talk to me about exit speed. Give me exit hits. The hits will come from James Wood. They have come to a certain extent, but it feels like they're going to come at a much larger rate with the way this guy is providing exit speed. Exit velocity. Also for the Nats in this game, Lane Thomas, starting right fielder, number 2 batter, 1 for 3 with a single and a walk. And he went 2 for 2 on stolen bases. The returning Riley Adams, he was your Nats starting catcher for this game, number 7 batter, 2 for 2 with 2 singles and a hit by pitch. Hey, it's Al Galdi to tell you about the latest offer from Window Nation for listeners of the Nats Chat podcast. Get 2 free windows for every 2 windows that you buy, plus pay nothing with no interest for 2 full years. This is better than any offer that you'll hear about regarding the trade deadline. I promise you. Call 866-90Nation or visit windownation.com and tell Window Nation that you want the deal that you heard about from Al Galdi on the Nats Chat podcast. Window Nation is outstanding. Every Window Nation window undergoes a 20-point inspection. Window Nation has a 96% customer satisfaction rating, and 96% of Window Nation windows installed require no follow-up service. Take advantage of this special offer for listeners of the Nats Chat podcast. 2 free windows for every 2 windows that you buy, plus pay nothing with no interest for 2 full years. Call 866-90Nation or visit windownation.com. That's 866-90Nation or windownation.com. And make sure that you tell Window Nation that Al Galdi sent you.
The best way to learn a language? Immersion, living where the language is spoken and using it every day. But if that's not in the cards this year, you could still learn a language the second best way, and that's with Babbel. Babbel's quick 10-minute lessons are handcrafted by over 200 language experts to help you start speaking a new language in as little as 3 weeks. Here's a special deal for our listeners. Right now, get up to 60% off your Babbel subscription, but only for our listeners for a limited time at babbel.com/natschat. Get up to 60% off at babbel.com/natschat. That's spelled BABBEL.com/natschat. Rules and restrictions may apply.
We're driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences, so the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Just go to Indeed.com/Blue Wire right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. That's Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
Maton kicks, delivers, waving, swing and a miss, and a breaking ball, strike three. And Meneses has struck out, swinging for the fourth time in 4 at-bats. He's now 0 for his last 18.
After the game, we got surprising news from a standpoint of the timing, although the actual news itself is not shocking if you've been following this team, as so many of you have been. Joey Meneses optioned to AAA-Rochester after the game. The Nats made this announcement. Meneses, in this 1-0 win over the Mets on Thursday, was the Nats starting first baseman and number 4 batter. He went 0 for 4, dropping his OPS for this regular season to a mere .597. I'd like to know, in the history of baseball, how often has a guy been worthy of being a team's cleanup batter for a game and then been optioned to the minors after that game? I'm guessing not often. Now, very interestingly, the Nats did not announce a corresponding roster move. We'll see when exactly that happens. But with Meneses getting options, so again, it's not shocking that this did happen, but I think the timing of it is surprising.
Yeah, I was kind of figuring this would not become an issue until Joey Gallo was ready to come off the IL. And Gallo has not yet gone on a rehab assignment for his hamstring injury. Now, maybe he's ready to do that, but that's still going to be several days for him that he would need to get himself back in shape. I don't have any reason to think that he's suddenly ready to come off the IL right now. So I think they just looked at the at-bats that Meneses was giving them here lately. They had not been very good. Talk about ground balls. He's been the king of the ground ball without hitting it very hard very often. And as you said, in prominent spots in the lineup and coming up in a lot of key situations and just not delivering with enough regularity for them. So it felt like he was next up, or the guy who would be most in danger. I just didn't necessarily see it coming right now. We're going to have to see what the corresponding move is before we have full understanding of this. But I'll just say, assuming Gallo's not ready yet, and I don't think he is, you do have the potential for a first base kind of combination here of Jesse Winker, who has taken some grounders there and played it a little bit in his career, Harold Ramirez, who has played some in his career, and Riley Adams, who we have discussed was playing some first base at AAA. And the idea was, well, maybe it's time to finally see how he does there. Now, you can do that, and then you could call up almost anybody else that you want. You cannot, though, call up Drew Millis because they just sent him down. You cannot come back up within 10 days unless you're replacing somebody who was injured. So you can't do that. So even if Riley Adams gets some time at first base, that means Keibert Ruiz is the only other catcher on the roster. You could say, okay, we have some first basemen, so let's bring up Trey Lipscomb again, Alex Call. You could do something like that. Or If you want to go off the 40-man roster, you can bring up Juan Yepes, who's played first base at AAA, Travis Blankenhorn, an outfielder who's had big numbers for them this year. You would have to clear a 40-man roster spot, but one possibility there would be Josiah Gray could be transferred to the 60-day IL now that we know he is going to be out for quite some time, it appears. So you could do that. As we tape this, I'm not really exactly sure where they're going to go with this. I think they can go in one of a number of directions. I assume that once Joey Gallo's healthy, he's back and they want to see what he can do for them, but I don't have reason to believe that that's going to happen yet. So they could go one of several ways with this. What they cannot do is bring up a reliever. I'm sure they would love a fresh arm. You cannot have more than 13 pitchers on your staff. So if you send a position player down like they just did, you have to call up another position player.
I will ask this because I'm sure there are people listening who are wondering this. The corresponding move isn't going to be Dylan Cruz, is it?
I would be very surprised by that. I don't think you make that move until you've really seen him thrive at AAA. He's only been there for 2 weeks. It's been fine, but he hasn't been off the charts. You waited this long to call up James Wood, wanting to make sure that he did all the things right there. Why would you now rush Dylan Cruz up? And then on top of that, I think we all agree Jacob Young's done a very nice job in center field. Yeah, you'd like for him to hit more than he does. But to bring up Dylan Cruz right now would essentially be bumping Jacob Young or Lane Thomas from the lineup. I don't see that happening. So while I believe that we can see Cruz before this year is up, it would really surprise me if this was the precursor to that. I think you want to see him have some more success at AAA, a little more time there, and make the move when it seems to make sense for what you've got roster-wise at the moment.
It was on August 2nd, 2022, what was 2022 MLB trade deadline day, that the Nats made the mega trade with the San Diego Padres involving Juan Soto and Josh Bell. That was also the day on which the Nationals selected the contract of a guy named Joey Meneses from AAA-Rochester. The 2022 season was Meneses' age 30 season and his 10th minor league season. Meneses, in his first game for the Nats at the major league level, hit a home run. And that set him off and running on what was a tremendous run over the final 2 months of that 2022 regular season. Joey Meneses for the Nats at the major league level that regular season, OPS plus of 164. He was awesome for the Nats over August and September of 2022, but he has never recaptured that magic. Meneses last regular season did not hit for like any power, did hit at a decent rate of 275 in terms of the batting average, had 89 runs batted in, but the OPS plus was 100, so league average. And this season, the numbers have been really bad, and yet he has been a consistent presence in the lineup. Again, I do find it comical. They viewed him as worthy of being the number 4 batter for this game, but then also deemed him worthy of being optioned to AAA-Rochester after the game. And, one of the things I was going to bring up on the show prior to the Meneses news, so Luis Garcia Jr. hits 2 home runs on Wednesday evening. We know that he does not usually start games against left-handed starting pitching. And look, the numbers for him against left-handed pitching are really bad. That is true. I understand what David Martinez is thinking in that regard. But you know who also has horrible numbers against left-handed pitching? Joey Meneses. And we have not seen Meneses get benched against left-handed pitching. And just seeing that, like Meneses not only starting, but inserted into that cleanup spot, Garcia's coming off a 2-homer game. If ever there was a time to let go a little bit of this, militant-like insistence on never starting Luis Garcia Jr. against left-handed pitching, it sure seemed like Thursday was that day, and the Nats didn't do that. There has been this bizarre loyalty to Meneses that I've had a hard time grasping. Great story. None of this is personal against the guy. But boy, they have clung to those 2 months in 2022 like few things.
Yeah, and I think they were just believing that there was still something left in there. And maybe not to that extent. But even what he did last year, I know he didn't hit for a lot of power, but he was very clutch in driving in runs. And right now on this team, that's what they need more than anything. And I heard Davey Martinez say it more than once over the last few months with him. They kind of said, you know what, don't worry about hitting homers, Joey. Just drive us in runs when you have the opportunity. And the difference is he wasn't even doing that anymore. The contact was not hard. A whole lot of ground balls, a lot of quick outs. Last year there was that sort of signature just flare to right field, drive in a run. He hadn't been doing that either. So he just was not the same hitter. And the Gallo injury probably bought him some time. And he had said, hey, I feel like I'm better when I'm in the field every day, more engaged. Well, he got his chance to play first base every day, and that didn't make that much difference as far as offensive production. So you get to a point that you say, we just don't see it happening, and you make the move. Now, it's hard to know exactly until we know what the corresponding move is, but I can understand why they reached that breaking point and said, it's time. Now, if you're Joey, how do you approach this? You're 32 years old. You spent a decade in the minors. You had this fairy tale debut finally, and then very slow devolving of your numbers ever since then. You go down now. Can you take this with the mindset of, I got to get hot again, get myself right, and I'm coming back? Or does he see the writing on the wall and know where this franchise is going and say, I'm probably not making it back up there, not with the Nationals, again, if anybody. This is a real gut check for him. I feel for him personally. It's a great story. So many people were rooting for him because of the nature of his career. He's got to go down there now and try to find it again and get himself back to the big leagues. And even if he does do it, the way this team is going, there may not be a spot for him if he continues it and may have to look elsewhere eventually.
And to that point, I do find poetry in this. So the Nats, in announcing that they had optioned Meneses to AAA-Rochester, also announced that Eddie Rosario had cleared unconditional release waivers and now is a free agent. In recent seasons, Eddie Rosario and Joey Meneses would still be on this team and would still be getting meaningful at-bats. This is a sign of progress that the Nats in season have DFA'd Eddie Rosario and have optioned Meneses to AAA. This is not the kind of thing we would have seen in 2022 or 2023. We in recent seasons have seen guys who are roads to nowhere get so many at-bats as seasons have gone on, despite those guys struggling. And I do take this as a tangible, concrete sign of progress in this rebuild. So from that standpoint, these are actually encouraging developments. So next up for the Nats is a 4-game series against the St. Louis Cardinals at Nationals Park. The rare Friday through Monday 4-game series. Also the rare 4-game series in which 3 of the 4 games are afternoon games. Game 1, Friday evening, 6:45. Game 2, Saturday afternoon, 4:05. Game 3, Sunday afternoon at 1:35. And Game 4, Monday afternoon at 4:05. The Nats starting pitchers for this series, Patrick Corbin, Mackenzie Gore, DJ Hers, and Mitchell Parker. You know, this series against the Mets, it was not looking good, right? Back-to-back 10-inning losses, bullpen struggling, offense certainly not doing much in Game 2 of the series. You exit the series feeling pretty good. This could have been a disaster of a series. Nats end up getting the split. Terrific pitching in 3 of the 4 games. So there are some definite things to feel good about coming out of the series. And we talked about James Wood. So far, so good for him.
Yeah, it could have been a disaster of a series. It also could have been a 4-game sweep. I mean, they were that close to winning those first 2 games that went to the 10th, obviously, before completely falling apart on them. So, yeah, you've got that young, exciting 21-year-old now in your lineup. I imagine facing righties against the Cardinals, we're going to see him back in the 3 spot, maybe the 4 spot in the lineup after he had him down against the lefties. Maybe we start to see him drive the ball, drive in some runs. Will be exciting to see. You hope the pitching can keep it up as well. They're in this very tough stretch of 17 in a row. As we said, at least everybody but Derek Law out of the bullpen had the day off. You hope one day off is enough for them. They probably could use a little bit more than that. But I'll say it again, the fact that they are in almost every game has really been something. And sometimes it's to their detriment because they have to use so many relievers and because the stakes feel high every single game. There's not a lot of let up, but you'd sure rather have that than the alternative, which is getting blown out. And it just hasn't happened to them very much over the course of this summer. So yes, you'd love for the record to be better. You'd love for them to eke out a few more of these close games. You'd love for them to start hitting just a little bit more and reward the pitching. But take a step back. It's still been really encouraging what they're doing. And it feels like they're not that far off from winning more games than they lose. They need a few more things to go right, especially offensively, but they're really not that far off, as frustrating as it feels at times.
This installment of the Nats Chat podcast brought to us by Mason Kalfas and his team of 10 legal recruiters at Zenith Legal in Washington, D.C. Check out Mason's website today, zenithlegal.com, or call or text Mason anytime, 202-486-3535. Hit us up on X at Nats_chat. You can email the show, natschatpodcast at gmail.com. You can check out our website, natschatpodcast.com. All Nationals radio highlights on Nats Chat, courtesy of 106.7 The Fan. For Mark Zuckerman, I'm Al Galdi. We thank you for listening, and we will talk to you next time on the Nats Chat Podcast.
Winning run at second, Nunez. We get set for the bottom of the 10th, tied at 4. Meneses digs in. The outfield is shortened up for Houston. Martinez fires. Meneses hits one toward the gap. Deep right center field. Way back it goes. It's over Dubon. One hop to the fence. Nunez rounding third. He's going to score. The Nationals win. 5-4. They're mobbing Meneses behind the pitcher's mound. Shades of 2019 rallies here in 2024.